White flag is out.
A pair of Kyles, Busch and Larson. They are at the point. Kyle Busch leads in the Interstate Battle Race Toyota. Back into turn number 3 and 4. Larson goes down to the bottom. Busch throws the block.
Kyle Busch across the stripe, and he will win the Auto Club 400.
Yes, sir. We got us another one. Yeah! Bring it. Come on.
It's, exciting to be able to win a race this early in the season.
Kyle Busch is going to victory lane.
Kyle Busch takes the win as the number 18 car crosses the finish line first at Fontana for the second year in a row. Hi, everybody. Carolyn Mano alongside 8-time Cup Series race winner Kyle Petty. Kyle at Fontana. Man, did we see a lot of headlines, a record number of lead changes, whole lot of blown tires, and, of course, the season's 5th winner in as many races.
From Daytona to Phoenix to Vegas to Bristol, then back to California, great racing we've seen each week. And each week, somebody else has risen to the top.
It was really fun to watch. The win for Kyle Busch. Matt Kenseth was 4th. The day, though, not all good for Joe Gibbs Racing. Denny Hamlin also making big news yesterday. Kelly Stavist is at JGR in Huntersville, North Carolina, with more on Hamlin.
Well, Carolyn, the big news coming out of Joe Gibbs Racing is, of course, Kyle Busch picking up his first win of the season. But the main concern lies with Denny Hamlin. He was unable to drive his 11 car in yesterday's race due to vision problems caused by a sinus infection. Sam Hornish Jr. filled in. Now, Hamlin was taken to a hospital in California for tests, but the team said he was released last night and able to return home. He's now scheduled for further evaluation here in Charlotte sometime this week, with hopes, of course, of getting back behind the wheel in time for this weekend's race in Martinsville.
Kelly, thanks. Joining us now from our Charlotte studios, 21-time Cup Series winner Jeff Burton. Jeff, what stood out to you most yesterday?
Well, I just thought the race was really good from the start to the end. I mean, it was just crazy how many things were going on. Just a really, really fun race to watch.
Well, let's take a look at all the action that we're talking about. There was plenty of it from yesterday in Southern California. You see there the green flag. Matt Kenseth leading from the pole. Fans were in for a show. Lap 18, Kevin Harvick has the first tire problem. The left rear blows, and that would be a theme throughout the day. Jeff Gordon getting busted for speeding on pit road under that caution. He has to go to the tail end of the field. Dale Earnhardt Jr. on lap 43 blows the left front tire and hits the wall, Kyle.
Yeah, you see, once that tire goes down, he goes straight up in the wall. Pretty good lick, but they recovered from this.
Yeah, he rebounded to finish 12th. Like you say, Tony Stewart on lap 57 here, coming off a top 5 finish last week, but he spins off turn 2.
Tony just comes up off the corner. He runs across those little bit of seams with a little bit of tar on it, puts a little more wheel in it, slides out from under him.
So several drivers getting confused by the pit road light being red under that caution. Clint Boyer, Brad Keselowski, and Jeff Gordon stay out. Here's Brad Keselowski's radio.
Light was on. I didn't pit. Red light was on. He was waving a green flag. The flag always rules. The flag always rules, bud.
Yeah, you heard him say the flag does always rule, but from a driver's standpoint, now you got to look at the flag and the light. That's a really tough thing to do.
Yeah, you said it, Jeff. So the restart here on lap 61, and Brad Keselowski losing a ton of position here, Kyle, after not pitting.
He didn't see the light. He stayed out, and a lot of other teams went to school on this no tire change right here.
Carl Edwards brings out the 6th caution of the day. He also blew a tire. Kyle, he looked like he saved the car, but was this by design here?
No, and we saw tires go down, but a lot of guys did not have to make a turn after the tire went down. Carl's down on the flat, still at 100 miles an hour. No, it just gets out from under him.
And, Jeff, we see Kevin Harvick here has another flat tire, lost several laps.
Yeah, they got to be disappointed with their finishes, but they got to be really excited about the way they're running. They've really been the standout team at Stewart-Haas Racing.
So Kyle Busch, your eventual race winner, struggling with the handling a little bit here, Kyle.
Nobody drives a car freer than Kyle Busch. He just comes up off the corner, steps out, no harm, no foul.
19 laps left to go. Jeff Gordon, great on the long runs, running down Jimmy Johnson, then his charge stalls.
I'm vibrating like a mother.
So you can hear him frustrated, but a lucky break for Gordon here. 7 laps to go. Your race leader, Jimmy Johnson's left front tire goes flat. Gordon to the lead here, Kyle.
Yes, when that tire went down, Jeff obviously takes the lead, but he changes the pace a little bit.
Ryan Newman also pits with a problem. 5 laps to go now. 4th place, Brad Keselowski has a left rear go flat. 4 laps to go. The 9 car, Marcus Ambrose, also has a flat tire. And then with 3 to go, Clint Boyer, the 15 car, in 3rd place. He spins with a flat tire, finally bringing out the caution. So all of the leaders hitting pit road. And here's how they lined up for the restart. You have the 40 car driven by Landon Castle. He stayed out. The 41, 14, 27, all taking 2 tires. And then keep your eyes on the 18, the 20, 24, and 42, all on 4 tires. And this green-white checkered finish, Kyle, was something else for fans.
And remember, this is for the win. The 40 car of Landon Castle took no tires. He does a great job of getting out of the way and leaving the race to the other guys. We see Tony and Kurt down on the bottom of the racetrack. Thought it was going to be Stuart Haas Day. But I'm telling you, those 4 tires with that 18 car of Kyle Busch gets a run. The only guy that got a better run was Kyle Larson, who comes up off the corner in 2nd. And Kyle drove that thing down into turn 3, trying to get around Kyle Busch. Great run for the rookie, but Kyle was too much for him in the end.
That's right. He holds him off to get his 2nd straight win at Auto Club Speedway. So a look at the top 10 here. Kyle Busch wins with a last lap pass in California for the 2nd year in a row. Kyle Larson gets his best career finish in only his 9th start. Matt Kenseth gets his best finish in 2014 and 2 top 5s in a row for Tony Stewart. For a while, it looked like Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon would finish 1-2, but the cut tire relegated Johnson to a season-worst 24th place finish. Gordon fell to 13th after the final restart. Joey Logano had a rear-end gear fail just past halfway while running 3rd. So, for Kyle Busch, his 29th career Cup win in 334 starts. That's about 1 win out of every 12 races. Nate Ryan caught up with Busch after the race.
Kyle Busch wins in a thriller for the 2nd straight season at Auto Club Speedway. Kyle, you've got experience with last lap dramatics at Fontana. You were the first car out of the pits for the final restart with 4 tires. Was that the key of the win?
I think it was. I mean, Dave Rogers made a great call there. You know, we wanted to come down and put 4 on. I knew that was going to be the race-winning deal, but the adjustment that he made to help me, you know, I was just too tight on new tires and being able to get going and really hang with those guys. So to free the car up a little bit gave me what I needed to get by them. You know, after taking a white flag, getting down into 1 and 2, racing Kurt and Tony, you know, I mean, just 2 great guys that are racing hard for the win, and of course trying to get myself up there too. So a lot of fun today. I mean, we were kind of, if you call 5th to 10th mediocre, that's about where we were. That's where we were going to run. But there at the end, man, I got right up on that wall and started clicking them off, started coming forward, and then you know, I was 2nd when that caution flew, and my guys did a great job in getting me off pit road.
We've heard you say already this season that you weren't antsy not to have a victory yet, but now you've got one. You're virtually guaranteed a spot in the chase for the Sprint Cup. How does that make you feel? A bit of a relief?
A big relief, yeah, certainly. I mean, you know, Joe was in our meetings earlier this week saying, all right, guys, you know, we haven't won yet. We haven't shown that we're going to win yet. So there's 4 guys that have already won. What are we going to do if this thing fills out with 16 different winners? And we're like, Joe, relax. It's week 4. You know, so fortunately we got here. We got a win. So now we can tell them, all right, Joe, 1's in. Now we can worry about the other 2 guys.
It's Kyle Busch. He'll have a chance to chase for the title once again this season.
Thank you, Nate. We heard Kyle mention it. As we look at the point standings, 4 of the top 10 are virtually locked into the chase thanks to their wins. Edwards, Earnhardt Jr., Keselowski, and Kyle Busch. 11th through 20th, 3-time Cup champion Tony Stewart climbing 6 places to 17th after his 2nd straight top 5 finish. Kasey Kahne fell 8 places from 11th down to 19th. And with a 36th place finish yesterday, Kevin Harvick drops down to 25th in the standings, but he's got the win from Phoenix. And as we take a look at the chase grid, you can see he's in good shape. The 5 race winners virtually assured of their spots, and 2 of the rookies, Austin Dillon and Kyle Larson, with solid showings so far. So tire issues, a main storyline coming out of this race. Jeff, where does the blame really fall in this?
Well, you know, that's a really tough question, but the bottom line is I think you've got to go back and look at a little bit of history. This tire has been run at California several times with no problems. Another thing is these tires like low air pressure. Over the winter, NASCAR gave the teams more downforce and also changed the rules as far as how the cars ride on the racetrack. So you've got faster cars putting more load on the tires, and you also have more wheel load to the car, because of the new rules. So you've increased the force to that tire, a tire that may have been marginal already. Now it's over the limit. Didn't know it was marginal until it got over the limit, and now we know.
Yeah, and Jeff, those are all excellent points, because I don't believe it's one issue. I think it's a multitude of issues that get to the same place at the same time that cause the tire problem. But you drove this car last year under a different set of rules. It's a little bit different car. You drove this tire last year. As a driver, what do you do when you're out there running 200 miles an hour, barreling off into those corners, watching those guys with other tires come apart? What can you do, and how does that change your mindset?
Yeah, I tighten my belts a little more. That's what I do. I'm going to tell you, it's a terrible position for a driver to be in. It's our job and it's our mentality to go 100% all the time. But when people around you are blowing tires, man, you cannot do it. You got to go back and pull yourself back a little bit, because, you just have to do that. And it's a terrible thing to do, but ultimately that's the right thing to do.
After the race, here's what Jimmy Johnson had to say about his outcome. He says, quote, "We did an awesome job as a race team, and we did everything we could to win the race. Unfortunately, something out of our control let us down." So the last part of that quote, the most interesting. Is that a shot at Goodyear?
I think it might be. It's a little bit of a backhanded shot. I think last week they felt like they had a shot to win at Bristol. They had a left front tire come apart. We heard Chad sarcastically say, "Must be our fault." They say it's my fault, so it must be my fault. That's kind of what Jimmy's saying this week. But I think it's a little bit of frustration, too, because here 2 weeks in a row, they had a shot at winning races and didn't win races. And characteristically, I don't think we hear that from Jimmy Johnson. That's not in his character to make those type of comments.
Yeah, and I also think it's important to note that when you look at this year versus last year, winning that race means a lot more. So I think if we took a step back into last year and this was going on, maybe the 48 puts 20 pounds of air in their left side tires and they know they're not going to blow a tire. But guess what? What Jimmy said is right. They were trying to win the race. So ultimately, what do? Do you be aggressive and try to win the race and get yourself into chase? Or do you put a bunch of air in the left side tire so they don't fail and then run 10th? The way I look at it, this year, you take the air out of the tires and you go for it. You try to make the win happen.
It's an interesting question to argue about. Thanks, Jeff. We'll have more from Jeff and Kyle coming up in a little bit. But first, we're going to check in again with Kelly Stavist when we come back for the latest on Joe Gibbs Racing as Kyle Busch and company celebrate their first top 5 finish of the season.
Bring it. Bring it. Come on. Yes, sir. We got us another one. Yeah!
Great job. I wish I brought you a better car, but you're man enough to get it done.
Starting 15th in the number 88 National Guard Chevy from Kannapolis, North Carolina, Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah! It's not Dale Earnhardt Jr., that's Kyle Busch, the eventual race winner. He was having some fun, and it would serve him well. So an eventful weekend for Busch and the entire JGR team. And for more, we go back to Kelly Stavist at Joe Gibbs Racing.
Carolyn, all 3 Joe Gibbs Racing drivers made headlines over the weekend, starting with Matt Kenseth, who put the 20 car on pole during Friday's qualifying session. Then Sunday, just moments before the race, word spread that Denny Hamlin would be unable to drive the 11 car. But it was Kyle Busch who made the biggest headline of them all, putting the 18 car back in victory lane for the 2nd year in a row at Auto Club Speedway. And although Busch battled handling issues throughout much of the 400-mile race, he still managed to work his way up to the 2nd position when that final caution came out with just 2 laps to go. But it was the call of crew chief Dave Rogers and the brilliant work of the pit crew that gave Busch the position he needed to go for the win. He came out on track 5th in line, but the first car with 4 fresh tires. That gave him the edge he needed to get by 2 Stewart-Haas racing cars, including that of older brother Kurt. And after the race, Kyle credited that pit call for giving him the edge and the track position he needed to get the checkered flag. And now with that chase spot all but guaranteed, Kyle says he definitely feels a weight has been lifted. So after a roller coaster of emotions, things end on a high note here at JGR.
Kelly, thank you. So, Joe Gibbs Racing, 2 of their cars finishing in the top 5. Jeff, top to bottom, where do they stack up against other teams?
Well, first of all, the first thing I think about is the life of a car owner, right? I mean, here's a car owner that has a guy on the pole, he has a race winner, and then he has another top-notch driver that can't even start the race because he has an injury. So, it's really hard to have a good day as a car owner in today's world. But, you know, from top to bottom, I think Joe Gibbs Racing is sitting in great shape. They have great race car drivers. They have solid foundation. They have great pit crews. They are really, really a contender. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Matter of fact, I might be surprised if a championship doesn't come out of Joe Gibbs Racing this year. I just think they're that good.
Yeah, and I agree with Jeff totally. I think Hendrick has set the bar, and with the drivers they have and the organization they have, I think Joe Gibbs Racing has done a great job of emulating that and imitating that, and they're there, if not surpassing that. I think the addition of Matt Kenseth and some of the other engineers and crew members that they've hired, they have solidified that organization as a championship contender year in and year out.
Another team that did well yesterday, Stewart-Haas Racing. Kurt Busch and Tony Stewart both getting top fives. Danica Patrick in 14th, Kevin Harvick in 36th. But those results can be a little bit misleading, can't they, Kyle?
Yeah, do you want results or do you want to contend for wins?
Right.
I want to contend for wins. And when I was a driver, that's what I wanted to do. I didn't very often, but that's what I wanted to do. Now, if you're Danica, I think 15th to 25th, she's looking for results this year. She's got to build that foundation to be able to contend for wins. So she's building on that. But when you look at Kurt Busch, he's had a couple of opportunities to run up front and win some races. So that's good for him. Tony Stewart, I don't believe, has had an opportunity to win races. Even if we take California, if we look at California yesterday, he's had 2 good, solid top 5 finishes, but those are results. I know if I drive for Stewart-Haas Racing, I want to be Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Kevin has been the guy that's been up front every single week. The other teams just haven't. I mean, and let me tell you something else, too, nobody's talked about. They went from 3 teams to 4 teams. And I'm going to tell you from experience, just because you're bigger doesn't mean you're better. It's hard to get all 4 teams working. It's going to take them a little while to figure this out. So don't think for a minute that expanding all of a sudden made it better, because the results aren't showing it. Kevin Harvick is, but the rest of them aren't.
Jeff, thank you. When NASCAR America returns, a lot more coming up. A closer look at the big weekend for California native Kyle Larson, who finished second yesterday to Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch across the stripe, and he will win the Auto Club 400. Kyle Busch is going to victory lane.
That was awesome. Nice job.
Now that he's a Cup guy and performing well on Sundays, it gives him the confidence and the belief in himself and his team that he can do it Saturday and Sunday both.
Kyle Larson took a shot. It will not be enough. Kyle Busch is going to victory lane. Kyle Larson second.
California native Kyle Larson with a big weekend, winning the Nationwide Series race on Saturday and finishing second yesterday. He is in a tight race for Rookie of the Year with Austin Dillon, who currently is 9th in the standings. Both have posted some solid finishes early on. All right, so Kyle, tires were an issue all day. We've been talking about it all show. Specifically in the last 7 laps, show us how they affected everybody, really.
It affected the total outcome of the race. I think we had the most laps on a set of tires at that point in time. And these guys, as Jeff Burton said earlier, are going for the win. It's all about winning races. So we begin to see tires come apart. The 48 team, Jimmy Johnson leading the race, loses the left front. We see the 31 car of Ryan Newman come down pit road, loses the left rear. Brad Kay had already lost a left rear. This is his second of the day. And then we see Clint Boyer spin. They are really running these tires hard the last few laps of a race to get up there, be in contention for the win. But this totally changed the whole complexion of the race, because these guys were in the top 5 or 6 in contention for the win at the end of the day.
Clint Boyer setting up such an exciting final when he brought out that final caution. But what went wrong for Jeff Gordon at the end of the race?
I think Jeff Gordon just got boxed in and lost some momentum. And California is a momentum racetrack. As we see right here, from Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth back, these guys took 4 tires. I really felt like watching the race that these guys were going to have an advantage because tires were so important. We see Tony Stewart and Kurt Busch try to block a little bit, but Kyle Busch gets such a great run. But look at Kyle Larson back here on the outside of the 24 car of Jeff Gordon. He gets a run up off the corner, but dives down into turn 3, ends up finishing second. Great run for him. But I think as we saw that video, you saw the 24 of Jeff Gordon get down on the flat a little bit, loses that momentum, and you just can't drive up off the corner, 4 tires or not.
Kyle Busch ends up getting the win. He survived all the tire issues, but he's also won in the heart of racing. Here he is at Lanier National Speedway back in 2009 after winning in a super late model. And he's not alone. Locals like Jay Fogelman at Wake County Speedway in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Preston Peltier at Dillon Motor Speedway in Dillon, South Carolina, all winners on this Victory Monday. More NASCAR America still to come. Stay with us. After a tough start in Australia, 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel looks to get back on track at the Formula One Petronas Malaysia Grand Prix this Sunday at 3:30 a.m. Eastern on NBCSN. This day in NASCAR history, 1968, David Pearson wins Richmond's final dirt track race. And 2002, Kurt Busch wins at Bristol for his first career Sprint Cup victory.
Go all the way, all the way, all the way.
Get it, get it.
Kyle Busch is going to victory lane.
Jake Seminaire, the rear tire changer. Back-to-back in California. It's awesome. We're in the chase. We're locked in. Go 18.
Well, each week we recognize the members of the winning pit crew. You just heard from the rear tire changer on the 18 car. That was Jake getting it done for Kyle Busch this week. Here's the rest of the crew. Nick Odell, Brad Donahue, Kenny Barber, Jeff Fender. Can't forget the gasman, of course, Tom Lampy. And how cool is this? Kyle Busch's over-the-wall crew yesterday featured the same 6 crew members who started with Busch when he began racing the Joe Gibbs number 18 car in 2008. Here is a look at the stopwatch from the number 18 car on the final pit stop on Sunday, which put him in position for the win. That was posted to Instagram. Really cool to see, Kyle. A lot of credit to that crew for getting him the win. How comforting is that for a driver to have the same group of guys around him?
11.7 is an incredible pit stop time. That is absolutely, that blows me away. But I think it's a team sport. I think so much, and we go through it every day here talking about drivers. It's a team sport. Those guys that go over the wall, that bust off those 11-second pit stops, they get used to Kyle coming in a certain way, leaving a certain way. Kyle gets used to those guys jumping off the wall. So the more they're together, the better they will be. And
I'm amazed by how quickly they can get those cars out of there. I mean, it just keeps getting faster and faster.
Yeah, it does. It continues. You know, used to many years ago, they were 45-second pit stops, then 20-second pit stops, and you thought, oh my gosh, they'll never get in the teens. Then they're there.
Can't get much faster than this, I don't think. Great stuff, Kyle. Thank you. From the entire NASCAR America family right here on NBCSN, thank you so much for joining us. Live Premier League games over the next 2 days for you. We'll be back on Thursday to set you up for Martinsville. Remember to follow us on Twitter at NASCAR on NBC. Pro Football Talk is next. Have a great evening, everybody.